Okay, so I'll start with my our females are giant, our giants are female, sorry, slide. And the person I chose to highlight was Dr. Mojgan Daneshmand, and she was a professor of electrical engineering at the University of Alberta here, where I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and she was very accomplished in her research in micromachines and 5G research, as well as micromachine sensors. Unfortunately, she passed away in the plane crash out of Iran early 2020. Um, but was really instrumental in reaching out to women in the community, and a real giant worth honoring. So um, with that, I will move over into TestStand 2020 and talk about what's new and what I'll be highlighting today. And so today I will talk about the new look and feel, work that we did to really change the icons, add some syntax highlighting, make sure that things worked on high DPI monitors, and really make it easier to navigate was the first goal, at least from the outset when you're first looking at it. We looked at idea exchange requests that were made in the community, those that were well kudoed. And implemented a few of those, and then we also added Python support. So I'll go into more details about these as we go through and really get to a demo for you. So looking at the new look and feel, we know that before there was a lot going on in TestStand. When you open it up, a little bit hard to make heads or tails of all of the icons in the toolbar and what you were supposed to do there. So a lot of our goal was really to clean it up and make it crisper and hopefully guide the eye a little bit better to where things needed to be. We did have new users in mind a lot in this case in terms of trying to make it more obvious for them to know what to click and where to go. So it could be a lot of a system shock if you're used to working on things, but here's something that we were really trying to meet the needs of those people who maybe weren't so familiar with TestStand, but also help you out if you've been using it for a while. So I'll do a demo to really get into a lot of these details and walk through some of the ways we've changed the layout a little bit and mainly explain the rationale behind different things and showcase them. So that is one piece there. The next thing is looking at some idea exchange requests, really small details sometimes, but could make a big difference, and I think this one does. And just making sure that the X, when you want to close things out, is on the tab that you are trying to close out. And so that is something that we have done. The X only shows up on the active tab in your sequence file, but certainly now it's, you know what you're closing, so that's exciting. The next piece is to add checkboxes to the sequence callback dialog, and that's been done as well, so that you now have the ability to go ahead and select which callbacks you're interested in having with a checkbox. We also looked at regular expressions and requested support for regular expressions to be used in TestStand, and so that was added. And it follows the ECMA script grammar, which comes from the Microsoft documentation for regular expressions. So if you want to find out the syntax and how to use those properly, then that's where you want to be able to do that. And it applies for check string limit, for find patterns, for match patterns, and search and replace expression functions. So this is just showing the support for regular expressions. And I thought I was going to the next slide where we're doing it in the string value test as well. And so that has been added there. Got a little pause here. I'll go to a demo before talking about the Python additions. Any questions before I switch over to the demo mode? All right. So we'll start with nothing here. So here, if you haven't seen TestStand 2020 yet, is TestStand 2020. Let me. Oh, I know what's going on. Okay. My taskbar is over here. This is the effectively the new layout, which hasn't changed a whole lot. You know, we still have the steps palette, the insertion palette over here on the left-hand side. You will see some changes. The variables and the sequences are shared. Not everybody loves that. Some people really still want them stacked. But for those that want things a little more streamlined and to have less and more space, we've stacked them. But if you do want to go ahead and put them back the way that they were, that is completely supported still, and that was an important thing to work through. But I think one of the major differences you're going to see is more context sensitive toolbars, and toolbars being brought to where it is that you are working with them. And so you'll see a lot fewer icons in the top toolbar, and here you'll see the icons here in the steps view itself. One thing to note is that we did turn off the sequence analyzer by default, and so that is not going to run automatically anymore. And if you want it, you're going to have to go ahead and add that. You can still go ahead and turn it back on to run by default, but by default, it does not run by default. So that's something to be aware of. I'll just go ahead and drop down the string value test here. And here's where you see the option for either a case sensitive or an ignore case regular expression that you can put down now. I'm going to go to an example and open something up that that has a little bit more going on already to it, and look at what we have here. So you'll notice that the icons for the adapters have changed significantly. As we were doing our icon update, we were no longer able to put logos in the application, and so that changed a little bit what we were able to manage and handle. And that's where you see letters now that are used to describe which adapter it is that you're using. And if you need to remember what they are, you can come here to the drop down. You'll notice we no longer have icons across the top. And that again is trying to reduce the number of items that you have to look at while not taking away your ability to do different things. And so this explains which adapters are which, so that you're able to pick them. And the other piece that I mentioned before was this notion of syntax highlighting. And so we have colored actions different from, tests different from actions. So anytime you see the different colors in here, you're able to tell whether it's an action step, whether it's flow control, if it's a sequence call, a test, or information, any kind of label step or comment is the different colored text. And so hopefully that makes the sequence file a little bit easier to scan and to read. That was part of our objective there. And we'll take a little bit of getting used to. And at first, if you don't know what it is and you're not used to syntax highlighting in TestStand, may seem like the colors are wrong. So anyways, hopefully that will help in the long run, and I'd love to hear your feedback on that. There will be a survey at the end, so opportunities to provide feedback are there as well. And so the next part I think to just look at is running through some of these things, and what I want to do is I'm just going to open up the types view just for example here to show that what we cleared away having the step settings in views where you can't use step settings. Oh, and I think I see a question from Jürgen.
Yes, it was regarding to the icons. Is it still possible to implement user-defined icons?
Yes, we haven't changed any of that support there. So if you want and you've created your own step, or I'll just
okay, that means
here.
my icons from the past will still working there.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, okay, I can see here are the old icons. Okay,
Yep.
that's good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Shauna, also you switched the module and the properties tabs, right?
We did, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was a bit confusing to start with, but anyway, yeah, I got used to it.
Yeah, I think that's something that could be a little bit jarring. I can understand that. The objective though is that most of what you're using commonly, so we're using the principle of, you know, the common stuff should be to the left or to above, and trying to keep that more consistent. And so, well, this one is not the most exciting step. Let's look at one that, you know, that has numerous steps, and the first thing that you're probably changing most of the things on is this primary step settings panel here with the limits and the data source. And so the properties is consistently always to the right now. Yep, good catch. So I'll talk a little bit. I'm going to just run this. You'll notice that there's a drop down now, and you're able to pick from the execution entry points here. And if you do have a custom execution entry point, that will also show up in the drop-down menu here. And one thing to note is that this is sticky. So we will remember the setting that you picked before you hit run. And every time you then go back and use the, you know, you close your TestStand, you open it up again, it will remember the last thing that you had. So if you're often running just the active sequence, then it will allow you to do that without having to reconfigure things and different pieces like that. But if you are always running test UUTs, then it'll do that as well. So I'm going to move here so that we can see your controls for your execution flow and debugging are also brought to that execution view. We have not done a whole lot for reorganizing and distributing the views that you're seeing here in the execution. In our first pass at this, we managed to spend more time on the editing efficiency improvements than the execution ones. So here you'll see color changes more than anything in execution, especially in the batch or parallel modes, is something that we know we need to look at a little bit more in detail and work through. So that is something that is a potential item that we'll work through in 2021. I see another question from Partha. Oh, sorry, your name disappeared on me.
Yeah, hi, Shauna. My question is related to the test sequence execution drop-down you just showed, right?
Yep.
So I see that keyboard shortcuts are missing in the drop-down menu.
Yes.
Next to the active sequence. So could you drop down once there?
Sure.
So yeah. So do the same keyboard shortcuts work here?
They do, and we can add them back to so that you can see what they are. You can see them in the execute menu still. So you can still, F5 still maps to test UUTs and single passes, control F5.
Okay. So now that we have a special sticky menu for the active sequence, will the generic execute test pass and single UUT, how it would execute? It would execute the same old way for the active sequence, or will it trigger the execution of all the sequences that are open?
We haven't changed the behavior of the button, so it should work the same way that it did.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Shauna.
Yeah. And yeah, you'll see, I just wanted to confirm. So at this point, because F5 would have been mapped to just restart, then that is still the case here. And I'll just close out of this and we'll go back and look here. So now it's back to test UUTs again. So just that shouldn't have changed. If it changed, let me know. But that was our objective, was to keep that the same way. Mikhail?
Yes, if I may. So on the TestStand community forum, I added some, let's say, short review. I described what I like and what I don't in this announcement thread. I was also mentioning why there's still no dark mode, for instance, and other things. But now I see that it's gone. Like all the comments disappeared, and further commenting is disabled. And there was a feedback there, and people started to adding those comments to this post. Some of them were regarding this dark mode, for instance. But now, it's all disabled and the discussion is closed, kind of. So why is that?
That's a great question. I know we looked at it. I'll have to dig into that and understand what the policies are on that, why that would have happened. I don't know offhand. But certainly I know that we looked at it in the dev team. I know that Trent in planning also saw comments there. So I'm not sure what might have happened, but I can follow up and let you know.
All right, thanks.
Are your comments, all of them are gone, or just that the discussion is no longer accepting new comments?
All is removed. All the discussion below this announcement was removed, and further commenting is disabled.
Okay, I'm not sure.
And it's bad PR in my opinion, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll find out what the story is there and make sure that you have the opportunity for feedback that you need. So, because I think that is important. So I think the other pieces I just wanted to highlight was sequence file callbacks. As you can see, I'll just add another one here. Now we've got sequence file unload that was added quite easily. And now I will delete it since I don't really, oops. Yeah, no, that's right. Don't really need it. We'll go back to the presentation. Are there more comments before I go back to the presentation? We talk about Python a little bit.
If I may also.
Mm-hmm.
So are you also planning to incorporate some more customization to this default sequence editor, like at least adding maybe possibility to customize toolbars in a way that I could include tools that I have in my tool menu? Because normally, right now, if I want to customize toolbars in sequence editor, I can see a lot of features, but I cannot add my custom tools there. So it means that I cannot really customize this sequence editor. So if there are any plans for making this more customizable.
So being able to add your own commands, you don't mean you mean the toolbar, or you mean the menu, or you mean both?
Well, I can add it right now to tools menu, right? If I have something custom, like some automation, for instance, I can add it to the tools menu. But if I want to have my custom toolbar like this one, yes, I don't know, with custom icons, for instance, because let's say in my company we are using some other automations, or we want to create a bundle for a customer to customize default sequence editor. Mm-hmm. There is no such option, even that there is a customization window for sequence editor.
Do you know if have you posted that in the idea exchange?
Yes.
Okay. We will take a look at it there then.
Okay, Shauna, there's another question which says, are there any plans to include more customization options of batch and parallel models UUT dialogues directly integrated within TestStand. That's without using CVI or Labview. I'm not sure what that means, but I mean, if Gabriel, if you want to come and sort of clarify that, I mean, so I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, you need a code module of some sort to do a dialogue. I mean, TestStand is not a programming language, so. Anyway.
Yeah, I think I would support that, but if we can get more details and try to, that might be something that we can try to understand better.
Okay, Gabriel does not have a mic. I mean, so please type any clarifications. I mean, we can come to this later. So there's one more hand up from Nicholas. Nicholas, do you want to unmute and then?
Yeah, hi. Just a comment regarding the GUIs. For example, if you're having a Labview code module and you're having let's say a big cluster that you need to split up, so it doesn't match really a cluster or container in TestStand, and if it's empty and filling it in, since there's no lines because it's really flat. This is, in my opinion, really prone to error. Let's say you have like 5 to 10 elements of the cluster that you want to distribute onto locals, parameters, or wherever you want to put them. So there you have to be really, really careful. If all the values on the right side are empty, that you put the right variable TestStand onto the correct output. That is really a tricky thing to do. So imagine if the value column is completely empty. Then you have no splitter bars in between the variables anymore.
Right. Happy to hear you say that. I know there's been some concern about the tables and their readability, and so that's something that we are looking at addressing. So there, like I mentioned, the goal was a cleaner look, but sometimes you can make things too clean to be usable, and that's a great example of that. So I think we will be looking at making that easier to be able to tell the differentiation in the rows, and wanting to make sure that we're hearing that from our users and not just our devs is really important too. So, yeah, makes sense.
Thanks a lot for taking it into consideration.
Yep.
There are a couple of more questions on the chat. So Danny Thompson asking, if aimed at helping new users, why is the analyzer off by default?
The main reason it was off by default was from what we had found is most people didn't want to use it, and it was confusing if it was analyzing something you didn't ask to use it, and so that's the main reason for having gone in that route, was just by understanding most people's use case and finding it to be in the way if you didn't intend to choose to use it. So.
Okay. I guess they can always turn it back on, so that should be all right. So Tom McQuillan asks, have or will the TestStand training courses been updated for the new interface? I'm specifically thinking about the exercise instructions the students follow.
Sorry, I was.
Do you want me to repeat that, Shauna?
Yeah, please.
Have or will the TestStand training courses been updated for the new interface?
So I just got a follow-on email on the next stages of that happening yesterday. So yeah, it's in progress right now. I don't have the exact timeline of when that will be released, but it is something that we are working through to be able to make sure that things match where we're going and what we're up to. So yes.
Okay, I think that's about it.
There's one more question. I mean, so there's a clarification from Gabriel, which says that, I mean, so if we need to make minor adjustment to the serial number entry or things like that, it is a major investment to do that in a code module. I mean, are there ways to customize it? I mean, so the obvious thing that I can think of is that, I mean, obviously you can use resource strings to change the strings and stuff. I mean, but as such, the layout cannot be changed in my book. But if you guys have any other opinion, yeah.
It's the clarification is helpful. Don't have plans to deal with that right now, but we can look at it and contemplate what we need to do to work through that. So that is helpful.
Mikhail has one more question about ActiveX and COM interfaces. Are there any plans to phase them out?
I will get to that soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Warren Scott asks whether there are any plans to do the parenthesis matching check in expression editor, I guess.
Yeah. I know I've noticed that and felt that it was important to do. So it has not been prioritized yet, but I think that is a usability thing that is important.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, so shall we now say that? I mean, we'll take the questions at the end because you may be running out of time.
I think so.
Yeah.
Got a few more things to get to, and we need to make sure we're on schedule here. So,
thank you.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to go back to PowerPoint so we can talk a little bit about Python. Here we go. Oh. All right, so we did a few things in Python. One is the ability to pass COM objects is now supported. You'll need to have the Win32 module installed in order to support that from Python. So you just get that from python.org, and then you're able to pass COM objects to Python and from Python to TestStand. We're also, sorry, the PyWin32 module. We're also supporting enums, and so you can map your Python enums to TestStand enums and TestStand enums to Python enums. And so that's an important addition that we have there for you if you're a Python user, and also supporting NumPy arrays. So those are the main Python improvements that are added now. And the next thing to just highlight quickly is if you're using the CSV output streams, we will display those as in a table view now in the report. So in the HTML report view, you now get your data in a table. So small things there. I can highlight if we have time, go back to TestStand, but kind of talk through a little sneak peek at some of what we're up to right now in 2021. I'll touch on ActiveX, I'll touch on dark mode, and look at the parametric sweep is the sweep loop step is something that we're actually investing a fair bit of effort into right now to really give you more control over the kind of nesting that you want to have within your parameters that you're setting, as well as refined control over what you're actually sending to your DUT and allowing you to, this is a view, we're calling our test vector view of all of the values that you're iterating through, and we're working through giving you the ability to enable and disable things, filter specific combinations, create variables automatically if you've dropped a parameter down. And so that's something that we also would want to start looking at where else we might want to do that in the application, and grouping and just more control there. So that's one piece to look at. Okay, this is not to say we're doing dark mode just yet, but we're thinking about it. So it is something that we know people want. It is not as easy to do in TestStand as we would like it to be. And so we've got to figure out, we need to rethink how we might implement it, or have more time in order to do it. So I'm addressing it. I'm calling it out. I'm not promising. It's probably not a 2021 thing. But we do care about it, and I know here everybody wants it too. So we just have to find the time to do it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of places in TestStand that need the work in order for it to be unified, and might end up with half dark mode, half white mode, and we've got to balance all that stuff out. So we want to continue to focus on where we can get the highest return on our investment for our usability improvements. And right now that doesn't seem to be dark mode at the moment. So, but we do want to continue working through things. Hearing your feedback is important. We have certainly set aside time for addressing some of the feedback that we expect from a big change like we've done from 2019 to 2020. So do take the time to give it to us. There is a survey link at the end that you can put some of that feedback into. I'm taking notes here, and we'll understand why you can't get the comments where you need them on ni.com. Also, so we are also going to be doing more idea exchange candidates in this time period, and addressing that ActiveX COM. We're working now on the API side of that, and we'll start there, and are figuring out how much time it's going to take us to get it so that there is a good user-facing API and the experience that you're looking for to be able to get away from ActiveX and COM. So we're starting on that journey, and we'll be pushing it out in beta format and other formats coming this year, toward the end of the year also. So some other stuff that we don't even know what it is yet. So I think we have a little bit of time left before we need to move on to the next presenter. If there are a couple more questions, do let me know. I don't see Teams. I can't see if hands are raised right now when I've got this presentation mode going.
So, I mean, one other thing with Python, did you, I mean, the class calling methods in a class was introduced in 2019 or 2020? Yeah.
I think that might have been 2019. Trent, I think you're on the line. Do you know when that one was introduced?
I mean, in any case, that's a great addition. I mean, Labview can't do that yet. I mean, so if Labview guys, I mean, if you're listening, please add that functionality. The only workaround right now is to create a wrapper method again on top of the class method in Python itself. I mean, so that kind of defeats the purpose. But yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah. So there's a question from Mark. Are there any plans to update the UI elements in Labview to match the new look? So, you know, like the Labview palette.
Oh, so the TestStand Labview palette.
Yes. Yes.
We hadn't talked about it yet, but I will write the note down.
So Danny Thompson asks, is there anything other than a full dark mode that could be done sooner? I do find the new screen physically uncomfortable.
I know that there was a little hack. Where was that posted? Where you can use some Windows settings to do this invert thing, but that inverts your whole Windows screen, so that's probably not where you're at. I think we can look at some different options, and if that's a feedback, I know it's very white, and if you're not comfortable looking at all the white, that can be straining. So look at
I asked a
something.
question. Can I say I would avoid going to 2020 and continue using 2019 because of that. Having looked at the two side by side for a few days, it's like for me personally, it is actually, you know, I start developing a headache, and it's just so in your face. Just a personal comment.
Yep.
You know, I mean, and also I get the feeling that, I mean, even though you think that the ROI is on dark mode is not as much as you expect, but I think you would make a lot of people happy by doing that. I mean, feedback from my side, because everybody seems to ask for it. So
I think the one piece that I will say is, you know, we are here trying to get feedback on it, and hearing from users on that is really critical to bring back to our design team, so that they can know that that it's not just made up. It's people's experiences, and it's impacting their abilities to work with the product. That's important. So. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question? I'm not too sure of the term, but when you've got if statements or if else, things like Visual Studio and other IDEs allow you to close them. So the tree look where you have a plus minus arrow. So if you've got a longish, so yeah, where your if is next to the if, would there ever be an opportunity to, like you have with main and setup, to close loops and whiles and ifs? Many other IDEs have that.
I would love that.
I'd love that.
I mean, there is an idea exchange post again. I mean, I'll try. I'll try and post a link to that. I mean, yeah, again, vote for it. I mean, so yeah,
go
it's
vote
definitely
for it. Yeah, I think it is in keeping. I mean, we have these like little connector things, and yet no plus minus. It seems crazy to me, but yeah.
Yeah, Sasha Emery from NI UK says that take a cue from VS Code, allow styles to its combos of colors, not just a dark mode. So
yeah, and I think that's where we are looking at theming in general, and again, it's not as straightforward as we'd like it to be in TestStand. That's where the challenge comes in. There's a lot of different technology in the application and different windows that are different, and so it's just the impact and keeping it crisp and making sure it flows right. So themes is something that is half supported already, but not all the way supported, and then getting it to all the way is the challenge. So once we get to be able to do dark mode, we would be addressing that, and yeah, that we would envision that people would be able to do their own theme files, custom theme files, and that kind of stuff. But at the moment, we're not quite there. So once dark mode's there, though, that would be a natural tie-in.
Okay. All right. So Gabriel says that Windows night mode or FLux mode, for example, can help alleviate eye-related headaches. I mean, so yeah, but yeah, I mean, if you guys don't have any questions, I mean, then we can go on to the next one. Shauna, thanks so very much for volunteering to present, and it was great to hear from you guys. And for the participants, I would say, I mean, Michael posted the survey link. I mean, go fill the survey out. I mean, I know that they do listen. I mean, I've been working with the TestStand team as a user, I mean, for quite a lot of years, and they do listen to you. I mean, so, and they're quite responsive as well. So please use the feedback form, and then yeah, let's hope that the things that matter are prioritized.
Yes.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Appreciate the feedback and your time today. Thank you.
Thanks, Shauna.